for Popcorn. It is an interview, our third interview, I believe. It's an old friend of mine. I have interviewed him before on a previous pod, but this one's sticking around, so there's going to be this one and many more. And yeah, it is Ollie. Ollie, how you doing? How's life?
Yeah, good, really good. Thanks. I'm happy to
Mhm.
be here. Thanks for getting me involved.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Ollie makes horror films down in Sydney and now I believe Melbourne, which I want to talk about. And he works a lot with comedy and horror and the fusion of the two, if that's fair. That's pretty much your focus has been, yeah?
Definitely. Yep. The
Yeah, with
fusion. Yep.
KooKoo Entertainment.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I guess we kind of have to quickly cover all that again. But first of all, why are you in Melbourne? What inspired the move from Sydney?
To be honest, I've just always wanted to come to Melbourne, so it's just kind
Sure.
of like a personal preference kind of thing. I enjoy the colder weather.
Yeah,
Um,
same. Yeah,
yeah.
trust me.
So
Yeah, yeah. Ollie's from Brisbane, so yes, I totally understand the hate of humidity. Yeah.
yeah, exactly right.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, there's a really cool scene down here as well, on the creative side of things. So giving that a little exploration and yeah,
Yeah.
loving it.
Yeah, good to hear. Good to hear. I will get there. I will get there. I'm looking at 2027 after I've done film school,
Cool.
pretty much, so I can come down with acting and directing skills into Melbourne. Because as you know, it's you can just rock up in Melbourne, but you're going to
Yeah.
be much better off if you come with something in your back pocket
Oh,
going to
absolutely.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
For those overseas, it's our New York, it's our London, it's our Milan, etc. People know what Melbourne is anyway overseas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay, children of popcorn. So once upon a time in Brisbane, met Ollie doing a scare actor tour. I'm not going to throw out any names. I think I've lambasted them enough on past pods, and I've changed my ways. But I really enjoyed working with Ollie. We connected over horror films and comedy. We made each other laugh a lot, which was needed, just quietly. And yeah. And so we watched many a cool late night horror film after doing the show. He showed me Split. He actually showed me a Shamalama Ding Dong movie that I actually really enjoyed. And yeah, no, and I followed him up. I kept an eye on him as he went to Sydney and started up KooKoo Entertainment, which is this movie company that is fusing comedy and horror. So you don't have to go into a grand history, but in a nutshell, what is KooKoo Entertainment? How did it come together there, Ollie?
Yeah, so essentially, I've always wanted to make films. So yeah, as soon as I moved to Sydney, I did a showreel course at the Screenwise Actor School and
Okay.
met a whole bunch of like actors there who I became really
Uh-huh.
close with, and just started writing more. Obviously, got inspired more meeting other creatives, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, came up with sketches and horror infused horror and comedy, and yeah, just went from there, sort of thing, creating short films.
Fantastic. I don't think I've actually asked this before.
Yeah,
The name, is it just a play on cuckoo, like the cuckoo clock, like going crazy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially, like
Okay.
that whole your mind's going crazy kind of cuckoo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I
because
like it.
all the concepts that I like to play around in are like very sort of far fetched, absurd, and all that
Yeah,
kind
that
of
is
stuff.
true. That
So
is
yeah,
true. That is true. And the clown character that you like to cameo in is
yeah, I've actually got a
oh,
thing of myself as a clown in
could
my room.
you take a photo of that and send it to me to use as this interview's, photo pick, cover pick?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
Cool. I like that. I like that. We'll throw it up somewhere on there anyway.
sweet.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Okay, so there's been three major films now, yeah? What was the first one called again? The Sausages, something?
No sauce.
Really
Yeah,
good, really good. And then we will discuss it a little today because we haven't spoken in a while. And you have completed and exhibited Why Do We Trust Rotten Tomatoes? We're good to talk about it now?
yeah.
Yeah,
All
cool.
good.
Yeah, fantastic. And we have a new one that you're working on at the moment that you're funding for pre-production for them at the moment, which is the beautiful beer, which is the drink beer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, cool, cool. And I've seen the trailer for that. And again, that's something, yeah, cuckoo.
yeah.
Absolutely, but fantastic.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that covers the history for those that don't know. Yeah, so why do we trust Rotten Tomatoes is out? It's complete. I have seen it. Really good again, absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Um, before I go into detail, so I want to know because okay, you're working with the same cinematographer throughout. What was their name again?
For this one, was different to the
Ah,
one beforehand, but yeah, his name's Casimir Dixon.
he did Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes, yeah?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, the beautiful beer, even in the teaser promo, your promotional
Oh,
teaser,
yeah, he
whatever.
did that too. He did that
He
too.
did that too because it's a very
Yeah,
similar look. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's the same
yeah,
look. Okay.
yeah.
Does he do the color grading and that sort of thing?
No, it was a different person again.
Okay.
Someone down in Melbourne now. I've forgotten his name now. Daniel something. Yeah, it'll come back to me.
So
But
there's been,
yeah,
sorry, after you.
yeah. No, there's been a couple of having moved down to Melbourne. There's been a couple of different people jump on board in terms of the color grading and all that kind of stuff. But essentially the same team. Yeah,
Essentially the same team. Are
yeah,
you overseeing that so it comes out with a definitive look at the end, or are you
yeah,
letting
yeah.
them do their own thing?
Yeah, no, I'm editing, producing, directing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So and writing it. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's kind of my baby, and then I deliver it to the color grader for
yeah.
his
Okay,
kind of
okay.
tweaks. Yeah, and we go from there.
I don't know if this is just me, but all three have had not exactly the same, but they've had a similar palette. Yeah. Your
Yeah,
stuff's very bold looking. Yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah.
bold colors, a lot of it's a very saturated look, but not to the point of gaudiness. It's not a neon saturated, but there's a lot of rich primary colors and that sort of thing throughout. It's very nice to look at.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It does not look amateur, is what I'll say. Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. And you're at a well, in terms of putting stuff out, beginning stage. So yeah,
Yeah,
off to
yeah.
a good start there, my man, if I may. Um, so yeah, let's just ask some questions here. Yeah, so Rotten Tomatoes is now completed on the international short film circuit. How did it travel? How was the reception?
Yeah, good question. It went all right. I
Okay.
was actually expecting sort of a little bit better, as you always do. But I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, the film festival circuit is always like a tough and grueling and risky experience. You're essentially, paying money to have someone watch something you've created and nurtured, and downright you're proud of it,
Mm,
and they watch it and determine whether many people should see it. So I guess for a filmmaker, it's a very nerve-wracking thing, right?
yeah.
Um, you want your film to be seen by like as many people out there who want to see it. But if that watcher is rating your film and the rating isn't good enough, then your film's not going to get into
Mhm.
that festival and it's not going to get seen by festival goers, which sucks.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I think it could have done better, but I wish it did do better, obviously.
Uh-huh.
But I know it's a good film and I love it
Yeah,
and it's a
yeah.
story that I wanted to tell. And I did have a couple of wins in the
Okay,
US, which
okay.
was good. But I also think that for this particular film, because of its underlying
Yeah,
theme,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is to put quite simply, rating films is damaging to the industry,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I think in my opinion, it did worse than it should have because of that. That is essentially what film festivals are all about, and to showcase a film that highlights that is risky, I
Oh,
suppose.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so but
Okay.
obviously I'm biased, so that's
Mm-hmm.
just my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, and others will say different, no doubt. But yeah, it touches on some nitty gritty sort of themes in the filmmaking industry that yes, I
Mm,
guess don't get talked about quite as often as they should.
mm.
Hence why I created it. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, just for the children out there, Ollie, in a nutshell, what is the premise of Why Do We Trust Rotten Tomatoes, please?
in a nutshell, it's my idea of why do we of the filmmaking rating agency Rotten Tomatoes and how they're an evil corporation that is trying to destroy the film industry. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then you're showing
yeah,
it to those people. You're
yeah.
showing that message in their own arena and their privileged arena, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sort
Yeah.
of corporate kind of society vibes, all that kind of, yeah,
That's
all that.
interesting. That is
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, considering the response.
yeah,
Because I don't know if you keep up with these things with film criticism online in terms of YouTubers and that world. There's a lot of talk at the moment about not doing negative reviews at all and praising everything so no one steps on anyone else's toes.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's we live in a day and age where you say something and you'll get punished for it. That's for sure. So, I
yeah,
mean, it's not so much that you have to praise everything. I just think appreciate films for what they are and then move on and have your opinion on them, and don't take someone else's opinion and make that become yours without
yeah.
actually going and watching the film yourself. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, and it's a lot of business deals, you know what I mean, rubbing each
yeah,
other's backs, that sort of thing. So
exactly.
actual critique, actual constructive critique is not offered, and therefore movies in terms of their quality and originality flatline because they're just catering to this very corporate wavelength, you know what I mean? Like there's the big guy out there, what's his name? I forget his name. I shouldn't throw the name out anyway, but he has, let's say, millions of subscribers, and he's just got an actual movie deal to make a movie. And he's decided not to do any critical reviews of any other movies to not upset studios. You know what I
Right.
mean? And therefore, the
Yeah,
studio's way of making films becomes law, and it's not going to go outside of that. It's basically doubling down on the whole, it has to be a pre-existing IP for it to get any funding, Marvel, DC, etc. And
yeah,
now on top of that, it's making sure no one's feathers have been rustled. And this is the movie industry coupled with the internet.
yeah,
Yeah, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
I know
That's the kind of
exactly what you
pressure
mean.
young independent filmmakers are facing out there, like yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have the balls, which I love you for it, to make a film which basically critiques all that in a very funny way, definitely. But the point is definitely made. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Which I admire, which I respect, because it's always a push and pull. You know, there's plenty of other YouTubers and filmmakers out there going, no, we're not going to play along with this. And a lot of people are behind them. So it's very interesting that there's this dynamic going on, and your film is reflective of that.
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's what I set out to do.
Yeah,
I'm
good
I'm I'm
stuff.
I'm glad it came across that way.
Yeah, good stuff. Um, Another thing that I want to mention, of course, I'm fine with an ambiguous ending. I like art house films, that sort of thing. Real life is not wrapped up in a tidy bow at the at the end of, things that
Yeah,
happen in life.
yeah,
And I saw that Rotten Tomatoes took that approach. What was the thinking behind that with this one? Because the sausage movie was quite wrapped up, if you will, by the end.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's an interesting one. I think I really like to have unresolved endings as a deliberate choice because I like to leave the audience thirsting for more, and I think it's the best way to leave them. Firstly,
mhm,
because it leaves your work open for more discussion.
yep,
If you resolve an ending, you tie your views and opinions down. I want to keep the conversation going. Makes it more interesting. At least for me, that is. It's definitely
mhm,
something I try to do because then if you do want to revisit on like later on down the track, it's easy to pick up
yeah,
from that point.
yeah,
Also, for this particular film, Rotten Tomatoes, I chose to leave it open because it's this whole idea of people rating films that will never end, no matter how crazy things get in the industry. There will
okay,
always be people rating and judging films, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I just believe that not everyone is right. So
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
they have their
okay,
opinions, but at the end of the day,
okay.
film is it's an art form. It's subjective,
Yes, it
and
is.
and throwing a rating on something that was made purely for, entertainment purposes, or to make someone out there feel something, or to say something, for a director to express something, it's just a little backwards. But then again, it's just my opinion. So
Yeah,
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 yeah. I mean, it's really just interaction and the basics of that. When someone addresses you, don't respond with a close-ended response, a closed-off answer. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Continue the conversation. Yeah, with your ratings, with your critiques, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, totally get it, and I get it with Rotten Tomatoes leaving it open in that way to push home the point that this is subjective. Yeah, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, yeah, if I ever wanted to sort of come back to that story, then
Mm.
I guess I can pick up from where I left off,
Yeah.
and it's not too difficult to do,
Yeah,
in
which
that
I'm
sense.
hoping
Yeah.
you do. Yeah, which I'm
Oh,
personally
really?
hoping. Yeah. No, definitely want to see more. Definitely want to see more.
Oh, cool.
Um, high production values. Yes, we've talked about that. Yeah, and this is just, it seems to be an organic progression. Yeah, your production values are getting higher and higher. So you've got a good team, it seems. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, I've sort of always pushed myself to try and have a really high quality production value,
Mhm.
within reason, obviously within budget, but most of the time
Yeah.
going over budget.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just really obsessed with like shooting really crisp, clean images.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was first obsessed with 4K when it came out. Now I'm
Hmm.
obsessed with 8K. And the other day I found
Really?
out, and now the other day on set I found out that there was 16K, which
Yeah, there is.
blows
Yeah, there
blows
is.
my mind out the back of my head.
I mean, that's
So
fucking crazy. Yeah.
it's just nuts. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and one thing in particular, shooting with a red camera was like
Hmm.
always a life goal of mine.
Yeah.
My dad and I would often have chats. He'd ask me about the sort of cameras I shoot on, and I told him about the Red Dragon,
Yeah, I
and
know it. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it became this thing that whenever he'd ask me about any sort of acting gigs I got, on set and on production, he'd ask, did they use the Dragon? And you'll notice that I worked something like that into my script, for this particular short film. Um, the idea that the Red Dragon was like the greatest camera of all, and shooting on a red camera was just like the icing on the cake. I'm not 100% sure if the camera we used on set was in fact the Dragon, but it was a red. So,
Okay.
so I guess you could say that was deliberate.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then and then of course, when you work with like a master cinematographer such as Kaz, who just brings
Yeah,
the
it's good.
absolute
Yeah, it's
best
good.
into every shot, you
Yeah.
can't really accept anything else. It's just
Hmm.
up from there. And
Yeah.
Kaz,
Okay.
like, all credit to him, he's just such a skillful camera operator who's
Yeah.
now been accredited with a membership at the Australian Cinematography Society, which
I was going
is
to ask. Yeah.
which is a
Fantastic.
credit to his success and
Yeah.
talent.
Shout out to
Yeah,
you, sir. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. It's interesting, yeah, because you quite often see the opposite when you see young filmmakers, certainly in the comedy horror fusion. Like if you go back to the 80s, yeah, and you have
yeah.
things like the Toxic Avenger and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? The production values are in the toilet, intentionally so, intentionally so.
yeah,
But funny as fuck. Yours is funny as fuck, but you flipped it and to make it look really good from the start, which I personally appreciate. I have respect for the Toxic Avengers and trauma films and all of that sort of thing. But
yeah,
I'm sure you've figured it out by now, children, I like pretty pictures as well. Yeah,
yeah,
it's one of the film
yeah,
reasons I'm obsessed with film. I am one of those people. If the images are just above the writing, then that's okay with me. Yeah.
yeah.
So on that level, I really like what you're doing as well, man. Okay, we talked about the unresolved ending of Rotten Tomatoes. Uh, da, 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 da. What's happening with it at this stage? Yeah, just to finish off on Rotten Tomatoes there. What's next for Rotten Tomatoes?
What's next?
Yeah, so you're going to put it out somewhere? Is
It's
that the
out.
plan?
Yeah, so it's out on Vimeo and YouTube.
It's
You
out on
can
Vimeo on YouTube. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so you can visit my website kookooentertainment.com and just click on original content, and
Yeah.
it'll be there, and you can get redirected to Vimeo, or if you like YouTube better, then yeah, it's on YouTube. Um,
Okay, cool.
yeah, so it's out there. Yeah.
Fantastic. And also with the actual work itself, may as well throw in the rest of the plugs here. Where can they find you and KooKoo Entertainment to follow what you're doing in the future?
Yeah, so if you just go www.kookooentertainment.com or just search KooKoo Entertainment into YouTube or Vimeo, you'll find me.
Yeah.
I'll pop up. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, because, and you'll have the crowdfunding link there for The Beautiful Bear, the film you're working on at the moment, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. What stage is it at?
It's still very much pre-production phase at the moment. Yeah, it's sort of because it's a time period piece.
Okay, yeah,
It's
okay,
it's quite funding reliant, but
okay.
I've got sort of different avenues that I'm going down in terms of finding investors to sort of help get it made.
Hmm.
But yeah, essentially what it's all about. I'll
Yes,
start with that.
please,
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The official log line is a medieval tale focusing on both the origins of the beautiful beer and the diabolical consequences of its creation. So
Like it, yeah.
essentially, it's a six-part series set in a fictitious sort of medieval fantasy land revealed in two timelines, the past and present. So with the past timeline, we follow like a trio of unlikely friends, Meave, Ashleen, and Aoife, three females navigating sort of the brutal lands as street performers in desperate search of sort of an exciting new opportunity, and they stumble across jester auditions for a traveling king, and
Okay.
he's paying a pretty penny,
Uh-huh.
and the trio or the trio's audition goes terribly wrong, and they're thrust into a world of sort of extreme danger that has devastating consequences, and ultimately force them into brewing this ancient elixir called the beautiful beer.
Okay, okay,
And
yeah,
then
like it.
and then in the present timeline, we're introduced to two siblings, Agus and Kiefer, who
Uh-huh.
return home after a long day's truffle hunt to find their father has mysteriously fallen ill, and their
Uh-huh.
mother, Maeve, and neighbor Floki force them on the quest for the beautiful beer, which they believe can cure their father's illness. So now it's up to the siblings to sort of save their father and retrieve this sort of elixir from the pub in time before it's too late. And so as the series unfolds, you sort of see how both past and present timelines sync up with each
Yeah,
other, and
yeah,
how
okay.
the forging of this beautiful beer, this diabolical kind of elixir, brings all the characters together.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah,
Fantastic. That's really
yeah,
cool. And it's a series, of course, of course. That slipped
yeah,
my
yeah,
mind. Yeah. Okay. So that is a lot of work, modern day,
yeah,
and yeah. And what's is it like in terms of period, you're looking at kind of a medieval
yeah. Sort of like
era?
a kind of like a Game of Thronesy kind of, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
fantasy kind of world
Hmm.
sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, fantastic.
yeah.
I've watched it was like a what's the word for it? It's not a teaser trailer you put together. It was like a scene for funding.
Yeah, so it was like a crowdfunding pitch, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and so I took I didn't want to go the medieval route for the pitch. I kind of took it from a perspective of they're in the present now, and everything's sort of, as it is right now, and it's sort of hinting that all this bad stuff has made the world as it is today. So you need to look back to the past,
Yeah,
to
okay.
all that's
That's
happened,
you
to kind
started
of,
there. Yeah,
yeah, to kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
get the
gotcha.
idea of how this came to be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Now what I really like with what you've been doing, it was in Rotten Tomatoes, but it's certainly in The Beautiful Beer. You have a female ensemble cast, pretty much, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
with this one.
it's
Yeah,
quite female dominant. Yeah.
yeah. How did that come across? Was that a conscious decision of yourself? Did it just kind of happen by circumstance? And where do they all come from?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it definitely happened sort of by circumstance. Like as I sat down and
Okay.
started writing it, yeah, the female characters just sort of came there first, and I sort of built this kind of universe around them.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, they're all Sydney-based actors.
Okay.
So the plan is to shoot in the Blue Mountains in Sydney. Um,
Okay. Okay.
so
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, to give off that sort of kind of rugged kind of medieval kind of landscape. Yeah, um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. What do we have here? Scotland. Why Scotland?
Not necessarily Scotland. I mean, it's funny that you say that though, because initially I wanted everyone to have Irish accents.
Okay.
Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. I just love the accent, how like joyful and playful it
Hmm.
sounds.
Hmm.
And having been to Dublin myself and the
Oh, okay.
countryside of Ireland, it was just really nice to sort of listen to people around there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when we went to shoot the crowdfunding clip, we ended up with like a mixture of both Irish and Scottish kind of accents, and it kind of worked in nicely. So
Hmm.
I think just having that sort of different parts of the UK sort of accent throughout is kind of nice. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it has that sort of sense that where are they, what's happening, and creates kind of like a sort of absurd illusion as well as to where they are located.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And it kind of is, this is just me. I don't think this is, I don't even know if it is,
yeah.
but it's certainly nothing blatant, but it kind of had echoes, hints of Harry Potter because of that.
Oh,
If
really?
if that's
Cool.
fair to say. I don't know if it was just the
Yeah.
bro Celtic accent. They're kind of in a school in the video, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's students, there's the battle axe but beloved teacher. So it kind of, yeah, yeah, yeah. It just had those elements. But that's a good thing for you. I think
Cool.
that's
Yeah,
it.
no,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Um, yeah, okay, so I do, yeah, these are my old notes. Sorry, it's been a while since I've actually looked at these, my bad.
That's all right.
Why have you decided why a series instead of a short film this time?
Really, it's because I had just more of a story to tell this time. When you first sit down to write, there's when you have this like your first idea. Everyone who writes has obviously gone through writer's block, and it's the worst thing ever. Where you're staring at a blank page and nothing's
It's a
coming out.
lot. It's a lot,
It's
yeah.
it, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Staring at it for hours, days, even weeks or months and years. But when
Hmm.
I initially
Hmm.
sat down with a sort of a semi idea in my head to write this, it just sort of poured out of me, like flowed and flowed out of me. And it was the best feeling as a writer because it's probably one of those rare moments, like striking gold in your backyard,
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
rare,
absolutely.
rarely
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
cool.
just kept writing and writing and writing, ended up with this huge script. Um,
Okay.
that was obviously, not not finished or anything or polished. But then I kept going back sort of week after week to sort of tweak it down, and then ended up breaking it down into sort of six parts or episodes.
Okay. Okay.
And it just sort of became that way. Yeah,
Yeah, brilliant. So it was
yeah,
inspiration. Yeah. Vomit
yeah,
draft, as the term's called in the business, was turned into gold. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a vomit draft.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's yeah, they're fortunate almost, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I understand that moment of inspiration. It doesn't happen too often.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I love horror movies. The occult's a big thing, magic, witchcraft, sorcery, however you know it, however you want to coin it. Since in my experience, Evil Dead, the Necronomicon,
yeah,
spooky books have played a big part. Have played a big part. That being the spooky book, but you've got a wonderful spooky book, a wonderful type of spell book with this one. How did it come together? Who designed that? Who made and what were the choices behind what goes in the book? What's seen,
yeah.
if you know what I
So
mean? Yeah.
great question. I'm
Thank you.
glad that you called this out because yeah, this guy he's a next level prop creator. So I
Okay.
actually came across the Instagram completely by accident. This Instagram of this extremely talented sort of prop creator and designer. His name's Dieter Barry, I think. Apologies if you're listening, mate, and I pronounced it wrong. But it's Deiter Barry Creations.
Okay.
On there, he uploads like all these wacky, wonderful prop designs. And I was in the middle of tweaking the script to have this sort of ancient spell book, kind of Necronomicon kind of looking thing. And I was wondering in the back of my mind how I was going to actually physically make it possible, which is another thing writers do, to tweak the script to make sure it's budget friendly. And, which is it's so counterproductive, I think. Like I just like to write whatever comes to my head, and don't let budget get to me until I'm in that
make it work.
Make it work until I'm in that full-blown pre-production phase. So anyway, I messaged this bloke and he responded like almost immediately, saying how much of a fan of like Evil Dead and the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead design, the designs he was.
Okay.
And cool. Because I gave him sort of like a brief outline of what I wanted, and I was obviously, being a huge Evil Dead fan, I wanted to obviously pay homage to that, but obviously not copy or have my own sort of little comedic elements in there, a little bit of Ollie Stening flair, which is why I changed the cover to sort of say resurrection spells ... and other witchcraft. And I wanted, I told him I wanted spells throughout the book, and I did some research and I wrote these little spells out. And then of course I came up with the recipe for the beautiful beer. I gave him that, and he took all this on board and created this amazing like hardcover with kind of like a skull built into the front. Epic spell
it's
book.
great. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And it's actually like really, really heavy too. Like there's solid amount of pages in there, and not all the pages have spells. Obviously, being an indie filmmaker, you're on a budget. But we have like 6 or 7 really detailed pages in there, and he like was drawing demons for me and stuff like out of this world sort of detail. You can actually visit his Instagram.
Please shout it out if you could, if you know it.
So Dieter Barry Creations, and you can actually, he's posted a little video up on how the book was actually made from scratch. So that's pretty cool. He's posted a little video on there the other day. It's fascinating, man. It's like, I love seeing how like they build all the things, and he's such a professional. And he also he made the wizard staff for me, which you can see in one of the images for the Wizard in the Woods character.
Cool.
Yeah, he's carrying a staff. It's made from scratch too, the green bulb and everything. Awesome. I gave him complete creative freedom, and boy, did he not disappoint. And then, of course, I went to his workshop to pick up the props, and then I got to see where he works. And honestly, it was like I was a kid going through a candy store, looking around this massive warehouse. There's, creatures hanging from the ceiling. There's all these props everywhere, and he's just made them all. And it was just such a unique experience, like I haven't even got close to production yet, but just seeing that workshop was just such a buzz. To get to see like all his creations, and the fact that he's worked on something, that I conjured up. That's just what it's all about, working with people who are just so damn talented. So
absolutely. Film is a collaborative medium. It is the collaborative medium. Absolutely. For sure. So we will shout out this guy, children. We'll link him up, on the episode notes. And as we discussed off air, I want to make horror films in the future. So I'm going to look up this guy and hit this guy up, I think, in the future. Yeah, definitely. Because cursed objects in film give a lot of weight and gravity to film. I mean, look at fucking Talk to Me. What that crazy hand. I mean, that film is brilliant. But that hand, that's the centerpiece of that film. Yes, absolutely. For sure. And the Necronomicon. Whenever people think of Evil Dead, they think of the Necronomicon as well as Ash, etc. And whilst we're on the subject, what's your favorite Evil Dead film?
Good question. I think oh man, you put me on the spot here.
Because there's a few out now. There's a few out.
There's a few out. I really enjoyed the most recent one, but I don't think it's my favorite. I think the remake is my favorite by Fede Alvarez.
Yes, I concur.
Yeah,
That's mine. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
That was just pure Evil Dead, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
just
Oh, the
yeah,
Rain of Blood, the Rain of
Y-
Blood, man.
yeah,
Fuck. And
yeah,
using the paralleling addiction as the demonic possession as well, having those things
yeah.
work in tandem with each other.
So
Beautiful.
good,
Yeah.
so good.
Yes,
Yeah,
so good.
I'm
And such a
so.
surprise. Such a surprise. Yeah.
Oh, I know, yeah, yeah, and I'm so psyched that he's doing the new Alien film, which yeah, the teaser came out recently, and I had to forward to you because I was
Yes, thank you.
just
Yeah.
going jumping up and down. I can't wait for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
great. It looks raw. It's back to basics. It looks brutal.
yeah,
And yeah, no, I can't wait for that one. Yeah, I really like his films. I thought Don't Breathe was a little problematic, and I'm not one to say horror's problematic, but it was a little
I
really?
agree. Yeah,
You're
yeah, I
making that
agree.
choice now after
Yeah,
it's been
yeah,
such a good fucking film. And Don't Breathe 2 didn't work, but hey, making
yeah,
films not easy, and you've made
yeah,
some fantastic films out there, Fetty, and we can't wait. Yeah, we cannot
yeah,
wait for Alien, especially.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, just to hammer home now where people can support you for the beautiful beer. How do they fund you? How do they check out the clip, the scene that you've created, and how do they fund you if they want to?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me just say, if you'd like to support my story, firstly, thank you. We have a really motivated, sort of talented cast and crew behind this one who are all eager and itching to bring this story to life. So, of course, being a time period piece, things are a little bit more expensive. But if you're willing to support, the crowdfunding campaign is up. So if you head to indiegogo.com,
Hmm.
you click on the film category and
Hmm.
search the following phrase, the beautiful beer dash Ollie Stening. It'll come up.
Yep.
Or you can head to my website, www.kookoo entertainment.com, and click on coming soon, and you'll be redirected to the campaign from there. Yeah,
Yes. There you go. There you go. And we will link all this up so you can easily do it from our socials, which of course are Facebook, Instagram at Evil Popcorn Pod and Evil Popcorn Podcast on YouTube. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, really good, Ollie. Really good to talk to you again. This has me excited, to finish what I need to finish up here, then come down your way. Absolutely. I have a feeling you're going to be doing this for life, as am I.
sure.
So we'll definitely work together in whatever capacity now, because by then we can definitely do both in front and behind the camera. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
lots of things we can create, definitely. And good conversation as always. Yeah. Any last words?
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to see when you get
Likewise.
down here.
Yeah.
As we often have spoken about, I've always wanted to work with you on one of my productions. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm eager for
Hmm.
that opportunity, and hopefully
Yeah.
it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to play with your clown, your alter ego. Does he make, okay, last, you don't have to say if you don't want to. Does the clown appear in the beautiful beer?
Of course, there's
Yeah,
always a
okay, good.
clown.
Okay, yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, and I think on that note, we will leave it there. Thank you very much, Ollie. All the
Thank
best with
you.
the beautiful beer. I'm sure you will crush it, and we will promote and follow. Yes, and we will chat again. Absolutely. Yeah,
Thanks again.
yeah,
Thanks for having me.
absolutely. This has been Evil Popcorn, Mr. Popcorn, keeping it buttery. Peace. Whoa,